Welcome to the Student of the Game podcast with Tim Stone, where I sit down with successful entrepreneurs to extract the knowledge you need to increase your income and avoid simple mistakes. You learn from their failures so you don't have to go through the same thing. I hope that you find one lesson you can apply to your life from this episode. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning into the Student of the Game podcast. I'm Tim Stone here with our special guest today, Krista Mashore. Krista's an incredible real estate agent, author, probably seen her on social media, and she coaches a lot of people to do the same thing. Krista, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I'm excited. Appreciate it.
I'm very excited. I want to hear a little bit about your career and kind of how you got into what you do, because my understanding is you sold a ton of houses and now you tell people how to do that. But I want to hear how you got into it and a little bit about your career, why real estate, why everything you do.
Yeah. So thank you. So I used to be a teacher prior to getting into real estate. I was a top 1% agent 17 years in a row. Left my teaching career to become a stay-at-home mom because my daughter got sick. And right around that same time, my husband at the time had an affair, and we had just bought in a brand new house. And I had two little girls under the age of 4. And I was like, oh gosh, I can't just play stay-at-home mom. I have got to my goal was like to play real estate so I could take care of my daughter. And I had to just like dive right in. So that's kind of how I started. In my first year, I sold 69 houses my first year. And my best year as a solo agent, I did 169 houses. So it's kind of,
wow.
Yeah.
So when was that selling 69 houses in a year was playing around, or was playing around before that?
No, that was playing around. Yeah, that was playing around. My goal was to just be a stay-at-home mom and like sell a couple houses a year to make what I was making as a teacher. But then with my husband leaving and buying a new house, and I had to like kind of really dive right in. And that's how I ended up selling 69 houses my first year. So that was back in 2001. So now I'm aging myself. It's been 23 years. I left being a full-time real estate agent 6 years ago because now I'm a full-time entrepreneurial and real estate coach. And the year that I left real estate to be a coach, I had sold 154 homes that year, the year prior. So I left, in the prime of my career. People said I was crazy. Like, you're crazy to leave your real estate career. You're doing so well. I think I made around $1.8 million in gross commissions that year. And at 47, people were like, normal people don't leave at 47 to change careers when you're making over $1 million a year in commissions. I'm like, I'm tired of real estate, so I'm doing it.
That's like a Michael Jordan type of career. Like, I'm going to leave on a championship, or Kobe Bryant. I'm going to score 60 in my last game.
Yeah, the biggest mistake I made, honestly, is I should have sold my company back then because I was doing so well, and I thought, I was just afraid to kind of let it go. And since I was so into the coaching and building that company, we kind of let the real estate company go. I mean, we don't sell like we used to because I don't sell. But I'm still very heavily involved in what's happening in the market and, utilizing digital marketing and innovation and being super current on trends. And we're always one step ahead of what's happening in real estate because we're teaching our agents how to do that. Right. Mm-hmm. So in fact, like when COVID hit, so I teach my students really how to be online marketers. And so they were already doing things like virtual online open houses, creating marketing funnels. Mm-hmm. So when COVID hit, it didn't scare them. Whereas everyone else was like, oh my gosh, I got to be online, where we had already been being online for years beforehand. So that's kind of how we run the real estate / coaching business.
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes sense. And back to what's called 2001, 20 years ago, when the internet, the virtual showings, all that wasn't as big, because we both know the average real estate agent might sell a house a year. Do you actually know the number? Like, how many houses a year does the average real estate agent sell?
So I actually recently did a thing where I took how many houses sold in the US versus how many real estate agents were. And it's about, it's under 2 homes a year. It's like 1.6 or something. Even though the National Association of Realtors will say it's 12 a year, they're taking the top agents like me who are selling 150, 170 homes and comparing that to the average agent that sells 1. That's how they get 12. But the average agent sells less than 2 homes a year.
Right. So before the internet's huge, the virtual showings, everyone's on the phone, Zillow, everything, still selling over 60 houses. What was the difference there? Like, I mean, first year all in, you're still selling 65 more houses than everyone else.
68 more. I'm just kidding. Okay, so here's how I did it.
Oh, yeah, still.
So what I did was I looked outside of the real estate industry to see what people were doing. And I realized very early on that I had to like differentiate myself. And so I learned to become a marketer. So basically my first year I invested in, so for example, back then people were doing like maybe a black and white flyer on the sign, right? Well, I would do a 4-page colored brochure. I would take a CD and I would put 50 pictures on the CD and then put a sticker of myself and my contact information on that CD and put that on the sign in accompanying with the sign, right? I also would put I put a commercial. I did TV commercials on Comcast. So I hired somebody to do a video of me. I think it was $6,000 for the video. And then it was like $3,000 a month to run ads on the local Comcast TV commercials. And then I also really early on used that same commercial and paid for ads at the movie theaters and had a video at the movie theaters, like way back when. And then I wrote a book on short sales back in the day and then did a commercial on short sales. So I learned to become a marketer very early on. And that was how I positioned myself differently and just like dominated. I remember there was an agent who had been the top producer. Her name was Tara Chin back in the day. And she like dominated the area. And within the first 12 months, she asked me to be partners with her because she saw what I had done. And then sadly, she ended up moving away like within a month of us being partners, like 4 hours away. So I ended up having to kind of do everything on my own. So after 12 months of that, I was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be partners anymore. I'm doing like all the work and you live in Folsom 4 hours away. So that's how I did it. I just, I really knew how important marketing was, just as it is today, right? Like attention is currency. And even though now it's so much easier to get attention, it's never been harder because there's so many forms of attention and billions of people trying to get attention. So I've learned that the best way to get it is by paying for attention, right? That's the reason why marketers paid, $7 million for a 30-second commercial at the Super Bowl, because they understand the power of attention and branding and getting your name out there. I realized that to this day and very early on in real estate. And that was how I've been able to just year after year, no matter what the market was doing, pretty much crush.
Yeah. It's funny how more people know about you and more people buy things from you. Like, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you have a coach or a mentor or someone that was telling you to do these things, or why did you know to do the things no one else is doing?
I think it was just out of desperation. I've always been very driven. And, education was always really important to me. You don't know this about me, but I haven't lived at home since I was 13. And so I found myself running away at a very young age. There was some physical abuse happening in the house. And then I ended up breaking the law and getting sent to juvenile hall. And then I got sent to a group home for troubled girls for a year. And then from there, I went to foster care. And then when I turned 18 and graduated, the foster parent said, hey, you got to go. Because the money ran out. And so I had to like kind of become a hustler, I guess you'd call it. And I realized the importance of college, got student loans, put myself through school. And I knew I wanted more for myself. I just knew I wanted more for myself. I was really a good kid. I was actually a really good kid, but with the physical stuff that was happening. And I always like to say that my mom was the one who was the physical abuser. And she is one of my very best friends and one of the kindest, best people in the world, who's completely helped me heal, and she took responsibility for what she did. And so when I tell the story about that, I always like to say that because she's, she came from way worse than I did. And unfortunately, some of those habits got passed on, but she's been able to help, heal the cycle and stop it. So, but yeah, I knew I had to make it work, right? Like my drained bank accounts, brand new house, 2 little girls, just left my career as a teacher. My daughter almost died, and I had to make it work. So when people ask me like, how'd you do that? Part of me doesn't even remember. I just was like on survival mode, and I had no choice, but to do it. But I remember this videographer coming up to me. So right when Facebook happened, right? Facebook ads happened. And so I've been running Facebook ads for probably at least 15 years. Like the second Facebook ads came out, when you were allowed to run Facebook ads, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. Like I saw, Macy's and Whole Foods and Google and all these places marketing on Facebook. And I thought, well, if they can do it nationally and I'm seeing them, I bet you I could do it locally. So I paid a coach like 15 grand, flew right away. He taught me how to run Facebook ads. Then I mastered Facebook ads. We've spent millions of dollars running Facebook ads. We've made millions of dollars running Facebook ads. And I learned that like right away. And so all of a sudden what happened was, Tim, was I was a foreclosure agent. So I did really well the first couple of years. Then foreclosures hit, and I flew to all across the country, and I landed like the Freddie Mac account, the HUD account. I had Wachovia, Green River Capital, Nationwide Area Brokers. I had like 13 different asset management companies. So for about 6 years, I sold their foreclosures, and I would come to the office, and there would be like anywhere from 1 to 3, listings like in a day that would get sent to me. That was the year I sold 169 homes. They were all foreclosures. And then when the market got better, all of a sudden, all my HUD accounts dried up. And I was, my assets dried up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I went from like selling, hundreds of homes to like around 12 or 17, something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to change my business model. And I realized nobody knew who I was. I wasn't marketing myself for that five-ish years because I was selling their foreclosures. You didn't want to market the houses because half of them had dog crap on the walls, right? Like,
were they going to investors? Who was buying those houses?
Investors and regular people, but a lot of investors, a lot of normal people as well. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to change things up. Like nobody knows me. So I remember meeting my lender and saying, I want to start dominating XYZ neighborhood. I picked a neighborhood called Deer Ridge and Shadow Lakes. And I said, we're going to start showing up in people's mailboxes every other week. We're going to do a postcard campaign. We're going to run Facebook ads to these neighborhoods because back then you could target a certain neighborhood. We're going to talk all about the community, and we're going to make sure that everybody in Deer Ridge and Shadow Lakes knows who we are. And within 12 months, my goal is to dominate those neighborhoods, which is exactly what happened. So we started creating content, doing market updates, talking about things in the neighborhood, school scores, what the things are to do, things about the HOA. And then we ran ads behind that. And then it worked so well. We also would do like what I call it, it's called digital location domination. And we also would do it like as far as like the old school way where I would create 8.5, 11 postcards, use every door direct. I would do like, here's what's happening, map of the area, show the houses that sold, and then do like active, pending, and sold in conjunction with the digital side. And it worked so well that we then started taking over like other neighborhoods, right? And so it came to a point where we were almost doing all of Brentwood and then doing all of Oakley, or certain areas in Oakley as well, which is an adjacent city. And now we still do something similar, whereas I create neighborhood funnels. So we'll do like it's what a funnel is basically like as a website. And so we would take a funnel and we'd create a neighborhood specific funnel where we would have a market update that's a video of that community, and then have like things to do, the school scores, the crime report, copy of our book, all this other kind of stuff for that. So it's kind of the same thing, but just sort of, we just keep expanding upon it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it was specific to the neighbor, but it kind of funneled to like the personal brand. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like
and then when the seller
have me be a realtor.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the seller or buyer calls me and I'm like, hey, before I get there, check out our community funnel that we've made, and then we'll have examples of other listings in the area, how we market with the virtual tour and the dollhouse. So then we have like a 14 minute marketing video that shows all the marketing that we do. So basically I call it winning before you arrive. Before we even get to the listing, we've already like 99 plus % of the time we locked it down.
Yeah, that makes sense because it just saves you a lot of especially when you're selling them many houses. You don't have time to go to a listing appointment that they're never going to sell it anyway. They're just entertaining you.
Yeah, exactly. And I went to all the listing appointments. I went to all the signings, whatever, all the disclosure. I did all that. Like I was a crazy person. That's why I don't ever want to have to sell the house again.
Yeah, but you can still teach people how to do it and make a lot of money. So that's why I like kind of hearing people's story and diving into it, because when you're talking about just the way you grew up, like you kind of had to do everything you had to do your whole life, and when it worked, and you ran with it and went all in and invested the money into the marketing is a big thing, I think.
Yes.
A lot of people aren't willing to either. You paid the mentor $15,000 on the Facebook, which is interesting. Facebook ads just came out and he's already charged people $15,000. That's awesome. But
I know. Yeah,
but it's worth it.
It was worth it. Well, it's funny because I just had one of the worst 4 months in my coaching business. So we've done over $51 million in 6 years in coaching, on online coaching sales.
Awesome.
Past 4 months, we've had like just a rough patch. Like we've done well, but my overhead's pretty high because our coaching program is insane. Like there's a lot of support and accountability and help. So I pay more than most people would like operating my company. But I just told my students, hey, we just invested, I think it's close to almost $200,000 just in the past month on advertising, hiring another New York Times bestselling editor to help me write my next book, because I was telling my students, like, look, this book, I wrote a book called Sell 100 Homes a Year, right? This was one of the best precursors to my high ticket coaching. And so I was like, oh, I need an updated version. I'm going to invest in hiring a coach. I'm hiring an editor to help me write the next copy of that. Right. And so most people would be like, oh my gosh, you had the worst 4 months of your business, but I'm still investing in marketing. We just spent $40,000 on National Association of Realtors ads. Like, I know that even though right now, like, it hurts to write the check for, 200-ish K, I know that that's going to turn into 2 million, right? Because I have to invest in exposure. I have to invest in, my branding. I have to invest in people knowing who I am, and knowing that this worked in the past, right? It stands to reason. We've written so many books, but it stands to reason to invest again. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see most agents making. Well, there's two. One is they want immediate action. They want results right away, and things take time, especially in real estate, because people don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, I want to buy or sell a house. So you need to, like, establish that relationship and the authority and all that. And number two is the fact that they are not willing to invest in their marketing and their own personal growth and development. Like, they're still doing things that they were taught to do: open houses, cold calling, door knocking, brokers tour, like, pop buys. Now, I'm not saying that those things don't work, but that is not the most effective, efficient way to utilize their time. So instead of learning, how to position themselves as completely unique and different in their markets, they are still doing the same old thing. And if they would just invest the time and the money and the resources short term, and then continue to, like, hone in on those skills, it's amazing what it can happen in 12 months, because most agents aren't willing to do it. So you actually have, it's like you skyrocket much faster than most professions, because most agents just aren't doing it, right? They just aren't willing to do it, because the barrier to entry is so easy in real estate. It's like taking, 35 hours of education, bam, you're an agent,
Yeah, exactly. So obviously you've invested a lot in yourself, and I see where even the education business, you got the book and everything, where a lot of it is kind of parallel to just also the real estate business. Like the book is probably a pretty big lead generator for the coaching business. Like the funnel you made for the neighborhoods, giving info on what to do, what the houses are like, what the neighborhoods are like. Like, that is valuable. And I'm sure you've read Alex Hormozi's book. You got I see all the ClickFunnels plaques behind you, so you're probably familiar with this, but like, giving away as much you can for free is going to turn into a lot more business. Like,
Alex was actually in my inner circle, but I knew Alex 6 years ago. Yeah, he was in my inner circle with Russell Brunson back before anybody even knew who he was. He was a friend of mine. I actually paid him $25,000 for an 8-hour session to go train with him, which he would never do now, right? But yeah. I love it.
And then I've got Grant Cardone's book, Sell or Be Sold. I know Alex famously paid Grant like $100,000 for coaching, but I heard that Grant used to spend $1 million a month giving away Sell or Be Sold for free.
Wow.
On ads on the book. Spend $1 million a month, because it's a good book in itself. It's going to teach you about sales, but if you're buying it, you're a great lead for his coaching program. Like, hey, why'd you buy the book? Are you looking to increase your sales skills? Do you have a team? All that. So it's just giving away a ton of stuff that's valuable in itself, but like, that's marketing. He's spending $1 million to then go get enough clients to make that back. All across all the different businesses, it all makes sense. Is kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's awesome.
That's what I did with real estate. So basically, I call it a community market leader. So my goal was, anytime somebody thinks about the community or real estate, I want them to think about me and know my name. And everyone does. Like, you can come to even now, right? Like, because I made it that way. Like, I was showing up in their news feeds. I was showing up where they were at, which was online, and then offering value, right? Like, I had a radio show back in San Francisco back in the day with, I think it was Fox something. And I invested in all these things by offering value, not doing what the average agent does, which is like, I'm number one, just listed, just sold. Like, nobody really cares, right? And so my goal was, how do I give them as much information, educate them? And thus, while I'm educating them, I'm elevating my authority, elevating my the relationship with them. I'm, they're getting to know me. And they're getting to like me, and I'm basically winning before I even get there, because they are calling me because they like me, right? Or they've learned something from me and they see something different. Yeah. So it's not like you even really have to, when you do this, you don't have to apply, if that makes sense. Like, they aren't interviewing me. It's like, when I get to that appointment, or when I did, they were like, we love you. Where do we sign? like commission wasn't a problem. They were paying me 6%. Like because before they got there, everyone else was talking about open houses and door knocking or open, broker tour. And I'm like, do you really think that stuff works? It doesn't. Here's why. And they'd be like, oh my God, thank you. We didn't want to do it anyways, but everyone else was saying we had to. And I'm like, well, that's because they are teaching the same old thing that they've learned 20 years ago. Right. So it's a great way of marketing when you really can differentiate yourself. Say, if everyone's saying wear white shirts and you're saying wear green and here's why, and it makes sense. And they're like, yeah. I mean, it's really a great way to position yourself, and it makes real estate so much easier. And I believe real estate is one of the hardest professions to actually be in. I mean, there's so much competition. You're dealing with people that, in many cases aren't as educated, and people are stressed out, like selling, buying, whether it's just because they want to, or they're going through a divorce, or they're getting relocated. It is stressful. So I feel like it's such a hard career, so whatever we can do to give ourselves that cutting edge, we should do it. Because you can also make so much money,
Yeah. And you were talking about, like, by the time you end up on the phone with them, they know you, they feel like they've known you for years. They've seen you on the phone 20 times, whatever. Like, the biggest thing I think for a lot of people when they're selling anything is obscurity. Like, if people don't know who you are, it's a lot harder. But also as a real estate agent, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, like, the biggest thing you're selling is yourself. Like, it's their house. The biggest thing you're selling is, so if they already know who you are, you've done a lot of the heavy lifting with your marketing.
Yeah. And for those people that are doing, cold calling or are doing open houses, it's much easier to do something like that when people have seen you. I mean, I can show you how we create videos that get 500, 600 hours of watch time on one video. Now, mind you, I do a minimum of 2 videos a week that I put an ad spend behind. So imagine that me getting that, video after video after video, like views while you snooze, while everyone else is doing open houses. People are consuming and gouging my content. I just got a text message from a lady, and she's like, I just got done consuming your videos and watching you all weekend long, and I signed up for your 3-day event. Right? It's the same thing in real estate. Like, people are like, oh my gosh, I just watched 27 videos on YouTube, and you don't even know they're doing it. People are referring you as the leader when somebody's talking about selling or buying that you've never even met or don't know, because you're positioning yourself as the authority while everyone else is doing an open house. It's such a brilliant way to think about real estate. And my best month in real estate, I sold 26 houses, and I made over $360,000 in commission in 1 month as a real estate agent. When I was a teacher, I made $60,000 after 6 years of being a teacher, teaching for 12 months. There's so much potential in real estate, even right now. And I believe we're going to have the best next 5 years in real estate ever. I think it's just going to be crazy, actually. There's so much potential that you can do, So it's like, come on, just invest in your skill set, invest in differentiating yourself. It goes so far.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. What do you think the next few years are going to look like? But another point you were making is all that marketing on top of the traditional stuff, the cold calling, the going door to doing the open houses. Because now when you cold call that owner, the whatever for sale by owner, expired listing, like, oh, I'm actually talking to Krista. I've seen your videos 50 times. I know who this is. You're just out of obscurity immediately, even in a cold call in an open house like that. They see the open house is happening. They're like, oh, I know who that is. Like, maybe they just want to meet you. Maybe they're not even looking for a house, looking to sell. And then eventually it always, can turn into business.
Totally. Like, imagine this. Imagine somebody and I don't do cold calling expireds or, any of that stuff. But imagine a for sale owner expired, and you create a funnel and you direct traffic to a landing page. Maybe you put a QR code on a big flyer or a big, you drop off a package, and that says whyyourhomedidn'tsell.com. And you drive traffic to this landing page, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, your house expired, or you're trying to sell your house for sale by owner. Do you want to know why your house didn't sell? It's because your agent most likely was doing traditional marketing. Here, let me explain what I mean by that. Here's the traditional listing on Zillow. It got this kind of views. Here's when you utilize innovative digital marketing techniques to expose your house to the thousands, not just the few. And here's the results that you get, right? Your agent might be telling you they're going to post on Facebook or post on their business page. Well, this is the average results that most people get. Think about you. When you run a video on Facebook, how many views do you get? 20 or 30? Well, they have not learned how to target people locally or retarget people who were looking at houses 3 to 6 months prior. Now imagine driving traffic to that instead of doing what the most people do. It's like, oh my God, I have a buyer, and for your listing that expired. Well, really, the seller's thinking, why didn't you show it when it was listed? Because they know that you don't, and you're full of crap. And that's what 25 other agents said. So like that, those are the kind of things that you want to do as an agent. Like everything that I've just said on this call, you want to go back and listen and be like, all those things will help you position yourself as the authority. Girls, no. Hey, sorry, my dogs.
It's all good. Those are great points, because a lot of those things in a way kind of sound simple. It was a lot of stuff, but it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. If I'm targeting people that were selling their house and explaining what I'm going to do different and really showing, like, if they're seeing your marketing on that side, what else are you doing on the side of actually selling the house?
Yeah.
It really just shows like how you run your business. But I did want to kind of hear your thoughts on moving forward, what it's going to look like. Everyone says, oh, there might be a crash, or, you know, X% of real estate agents are going to drop out of the market and stop being agents, whatever. But the truth is, houses are going to sell every day. I say this, there's a million reasons someone needs to sell their house that has nothing to do with getting top market price.
Oh, yeah. Divorce, relocation, upsizing, downsizing. They want a new school, having babies leaving college, relocating, right? There's so many different reasons why they want a certain neighborhood. They want a 2-story, not a 1. They want a bigger backyard. Like, we can keep on there. People are still selling.
Yeah.
And now people are getting more, like, the interest rates have been high for a while. We just had the biggest reduction in interest rates that we've had in like 2-3 years. I think the stat is right. Major reduction in interest rates. The pent-up demand for buying is insatious. The pent-up demand for selling is huge. And girls, no. And also, we have more people being born and the bigger population than we've had in years, but the amount of homes that are being built continues to decrease. So all of this, and now people are like, oh my gosh, rates are getting lower. They're more used to them being higher. It's been that way for around 18 months now. Like, I personally believe the next 3-4 years is going to be insane. And if you do research, the experts, who are the experts? They're the real estate experts, advisors, financial advisors that are actual real experts. They are all anticipating, except for one, and I forget who that was, like 3 to 5% increase every year over the next couple of years. So it's looking good, and we have not been in a market of depreciation. We've been in a market of deceleration, which means that houses are still appreciating. They're just not appreciating at the level that they were the previous years when it was insane. Like, the appreciation level is so crazy. It's not normal, right? So we're still appreciating. We're just not appreciating at the level we were. So we're just in a market of deceleration, not depreciation.
Yeah. It was so insane a few years ago. I know some people that were flipping houses in 2020 through 2022, and they had projects that they just didn't get to them yet. They had other stuff going on. They hadn't fixed them up. They went ahead and sold them for a profit. Yeah. They hadn't even done anything to it, just because the market was going up so fast.
It was insane. But it's not normal. It's not a normal market. Right? So it's like, it's kind of like.
So that stopped, and people think it's a crash, but that was just insane when it was happening.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So what, obviously I think if you want to crush it as a real estate agent in 2024, they can sign up for your coaching. But what are some things, like direct things, that people should be doing to get more listings, sell more houses, and just be a better entrepreneur?
So video, right? The stats behind video, like in conversion, the stats. There's so many stats you can go online about, like, just go research why use video in marketing, or like give me the 2023 video marketing statistics. And it's insane. Like 800% more conversions on a landing page that has video versus one that doesn't, right? The amount of time somebody stays on a website with video versus doesn't, the amount of how much people retain from a video than just a picture. It's like a video says 1,000 words. A picture says 1,000 words. A video is like, I'm saying this wrong. This is the wrong stat. It's like 1.8 million words is equivalent to it, right? So video, like 1 minute of video. So, start utilizing video, make sure you're properly distributing it, and do it consistently. Don't just talk about, real estate, which is important. Everyone wants to know about real estate. Like everybody on this call, if you see a sign go up in your neighborhood, first thing you are is you're pissed off they didn't hire you, right? And which is, by the way, your fault. They didn't hire you because they forgot about you. The second thing you do is you want to know what it was listed for. So you either grab the flyer or you go look it up and you see who listed it and what's it listed for. the neighbors are the exact same way. People want to know what their home is worth. They want to know what's happening in their neighborhood. That's why when you're at a listing, the first, at a party and people know that you're in real estate, the first thing they ask you is, what's the market doing? How's the market? What's going to happen to interest rates? That's the first thing people ask you when they're in real estate. So why aren't we telling them? Tell people, educate them, let them know what's happening nationally, what's happening locally, what's prolific in the area, what's the new development, what things there are to do in the neighborhood. Interview local businesses, support your community. I mean, if you just did that consistently and were smart and ran Facebook ads and retargeted people and did that in 12 months, we have had brand new agents beat out top producers within 12 months from this strategy. I mean, if people that do it and do it consistently crush it, right? It's just a matter of investing in your exposure. And remember, attention is currency. Like the more money you want to make, you want to be a top producer, be a top marketer. Learn to be a top marketer, and then follow it up with what tools and strategies am I going to have in my toolbox that once I get that, before I get to that appointment or during that appointment, am I going to make sure that I knock it out of the park, right? So like, for example, sending them to our community funnels. I wrote a book, a book about selling your home, seller's guides, buyer's guides, right? A buyer book, all these different tools that now I've got this opportunity. How do I make sure that I now then drive the nail through the wall, right? I've got my hammer, the nail's there. How do I make sure that the hole gets in the wall? Like, don't leave anything to chance. And when you utilize these strategies together, like you're pretty unstoppable because nobody else is investing in doing that kind of thing.
So if I'm a new agent, or maybe I just have kind of been playing around with it, like you mentioned, just have my license and maybe I want to sell a couple of houses a year. You say do the video content. Do I need to go buy $1,000 camera, get a tripod, lights, studio, and everything? Or what would you recommend you start with?
A phone. Just start with your phone. Back, one of my students today just said, she goes, Krista Mashore Coaching, we shut down for the holiday. And she's like, I was committed to getting my videos out there. And so since I didn't get it edited, I just took my phone right in front of my fireplace, did a video. And she goes, I got tons of engagement, tons of views. All you need is a cell phone. No fancy lights, no editing. You will get there, right? Every edit has its purpose, but some research shows that unedited videos actually do better than edited videos. Now, again, it depends upon, you want to use an edited video for a listing. You want to use an edited video for a pre-listing presentation video that you're doing to market yourself before you get to a listing. But the educational videos, it's just your phone, and it's always great to add what you're saying on there because people retain a lot more, and 80% of videos are watched without sound if you can. But if not, just start creating the content because people are consuming and binging it for months and months and months before they will even call you. So it's amazing what can happen. So just start creating content about your community. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give any agent, and make sure you stick to it and are consistent with it because, I think that like the stat was, it's like around 11 months where from the time somebody thinks about selling or buying that they actually do it. So they're in that time frame, they're receptive, they're educating themselves, they're looking for things. So you want to be the one that's showing up, adding the value, giving the information, educating them before they're ready to make the decision.
Yeah, because if they're ready, it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. Yeah.
Because you're thinking, where am I going to move? Like, how much can I get for? Like, what are rates now?
Yeah.
What are the tax implications if I sell the house? All those things, and then now you're like, okay, which realtor am I going to work with? Who's going to sell it? How fast? All these things.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm ready to get a realtor, but the wheels been turning for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And they've already, so you want to be showing up as that person before they're even ready to make the decision. If otherwise you're too late in most cases,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think this has been very valuable. Is there like anything else that we need to put in here to make sure people know it? Or I kind of halfway asked that question already, but if there's anything else.
Well, if anyone's interested, they can go to Krista Mashore, that's with a K, mashore.com/Tim Stone. And you can learn more about our 3-day event that we do. We do a 3-day virtual event where we go over all this stuff in massively great detail. And we teach like the strategy and also the tactics on how to do it, which they might find that helpful. But I've had a great time, Tim. I hope I didn't do too much talking. I know you said.
No, that was awesome and very valuable stuff because there's a lot of online coaches that are like, have you even sold a house? Like whatever, all this stuff. But you could tell your stuff, your marketing. And I haven't done all the ClickFunnels, the Russell Brunson, all that stuff, but I can tell you've studied so much of it, the statistics, the videos, like the stat you mentioned, like if a landing page has a video, it gets 800 times more conversion. That's Like that's priceless information. So thank you, Krista. Anyone who's still listening at this point, thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.